So you were scrolling and just stopped on this video, right? Now let's be real for a second. How many times in the last hour have you lit up your phone screen for absolutely no reason? And I guarantee you're going to do the exact same thing in the next 5 minutes whether you clock it or not. Because that's literally the national average now. 87% of us have a phone going while we're watching TV. More than half of us can't even eat dinner without one lighting up next to the plate. This is exactly why you can't put it down. And the actual 5-step fix nobody's told you. And here's the part that should actually scare you. None of that is an accident. Your brain didn't get weaker. The world got engineered. Every app, every notification, every autoplay button was built by people whose entire job is figuring out how to hijack the exact same reward chemical your brain releases on heroin and aim it at you every waking hour for free. So if you've ever tried to quit something, scrolling, gaming, porn, whatever it is, and made it a few days before caving again, stick around. Because the reason you keep failing isn't willpower, and it's not that you're weak. It's that nobody ever explained what's actually happening in your skull, or given you anything better than just try harder. Skip this one and you're back in the same loop next week. Same crash, same shame, same 2 a.m. promise to yourself that never sticks. That changes in the next 15 minutes or so. 5 steps straight from the actual research. Why the crash happens, why cold turkey collapses almost every time, and what actually rewires the habit for good. By the end of this, the thing you couldn't beat for years is going to make a lot more sense than it did 60 seconds ago.
Every brain has something scientists call a pleasure-pain balance. A Stanford psychiatrist named Dr. Anna Lembke, she runs the addiction medicine clinic there, pictures it as an actual scale in your head. A balance with a fulcrum in the center. And when you feel pleasure, dopamine floods in and tips that scale hard to one side. Feels amazing. For a minute. But your brain hates being tipped. It wants balance. So the second that high hits its peak, your brain yanks the scale back, and it doesn't just return to center, it overshoots into the pain side. Which is exactly why the harder your dopamine spikes, the harder and faster it crashes below where you started. That crash is the empty, restless, why do I feel like garbage feeling? And your brain's solution to that feeling, go find another hit. Fast. Now here's what nobody tells you. This isn't new. Humans have always had this system. What's new is the supply. We've essentially drugified everything around us. Food, apps, games, social media, all engineered to fire that same reward pathway and engineered to be more available and more intense than anything our brains evolved for. You're not weak. You're outgunned. And that's the part that actually matters. Because once you understand the scale, you understand why quitting cold turkey so often fails. You're fighting biology that's rigged against you on purpose. So how do you actually win against a system built to be you? That's 5 steps. And step 1, almost nobody gets right on the first try. Step 1 is figuring out if you're actually dealing with an addiction or if you're just being paranoid about a normal hobby. And most people get this wrong in one of 2 directions. Either they panic over nothing, or they tell themselves a comforting lie for years. So let's use an actual clinical yardstick instead of vibes. The World Health Organization's real criteria for gaming disorder comes down to 3 things. You've lost control over the behavior, it's taken priority over basically everything else in your life, and you keep doing it even after it's clearly wrecking things. And that pattern has to stick around for months, not just a rough week. Swap gaming for scrolling, porn, whatever. The same 3-question pattern still holds, even though only gaming and gambling actually have official clinical criteria so far. And notice what's not on that list. Enjoying something isn't the problem. Doing it a lot isn't automatically the problem either. The tell is control. Can you stop when you decide to? Or does the activity make that call for you? Here's the moment that actually stings. It's not when a stranger points it out. It's the 2 a.m. version of you, phone still in hand, telling yourself just one more for the 4th time that night, and some quiet part of your brain going, yeah, this isn't really a choice anymore. That's the moment step 1 is built for. Not shame, just honesty. But here's the trap almost everybody falls into right after they admit it. They try to just white-knuckle it away, and that's exactly where it falls apart. Step 2. Don't just delete the habit. Cold turkey, gone. Willpower alone, and it collapses within days. Here's why that fails, and it goes back to the scale from the mechanism section. Your brain isn't looking for video games specifically or scrolling specifically. It's looking for a way to tip that scale back toward pleasure. So if you just rip the habit out and leave a hole, your brain is going to find something to fill it, usually the exact same thing you were trying to quit at 11 p.m. when your defenses are down. The move that actually works is swapping in something that raises dopamine slower and smaller. Lembke's research points to something called hormesis. Putting your body through something mildly uncomfortable, like a hard workout or cold water, which triggers a slower dopamine release, precisely because your body treats it like a minor injury and rewards you for pushing through it. That discomfort is doing the exact same job as the addictive habit, just on a curve that doesn't crash you afterward. That's why you use a hard workout or a cold shower to replace the dopamine hit itself, and lower-key stuff like reading, drawing, or walking without your phone to rebuild your baseline in between. None of it hits as hard in the first 10 seconds. That's the point. Slow-build dopamine doesn't come with a matching crater on the other side. Step 2 gave your brain something smaller to reach for. Step 3 is different. It's giving your brain something bigger to live for. So let me be real with you for a second. There was a stretch of my life where I'd wake up and the first thing I did, before brushing my teeth, before saying a word to anyone, was open my phone. Not to check anything important, just to feel that little hit. And some nights I'd tell myself one more episode, and then look up and it's 3 a.m. and I've got work in 5 hours, and I genuinely could not tell you what I watched. The scary part wasn't the time I lost. It was that I didn't feel anything anymore. Not bored, not happy, just kind of numb, running on autopilot through my own life. What actually pulled me out wasn't discipline. It was step 3. I got obsessed with something else. And there's actual psychology behind why that works better than white-knuckling it ever did. Self-determination theory. This comes from researchers Edward Dietschy and Richard Ryan, identified 3 needs that drive real, sustained motivation: autonomy, competence, and relatedness. And when you're chasing a habit purely to avoid something bad, that's the weakest kind of motivation there is. I'm doing this so I don't relapse barely works. I'm doing this because I'm actually getting good at it and I chose it works completely differently in your brain. For me, that something was this channel. Researching, writing, editing, watching the numbers move. I wasn't resisting the phone anymore. I just didn't have room for it. My brain had somewhere better to put all that energy, and the old habit quietly starved. So find the thing that checks those boxes for you. Something you picked yourself. Something you're visibly improving at. Something that puts you around real people. And here's the test. If you'd still be doing it even after the bad habit magically disappeared tomorrow, it's real. If you drop it the second you didn't need it anymore, it's just a distraction wearing a costume. And when the urge shows up anyway, because it will, don't fight it head on. Fighting a thought makes it louder. Redirect instead. Pull up a memory that actually makes you feel good and let your mind sit there for a second instead. It's not about winning the argument with the urge. It's about changing the subject before the argument starts. But here's the catch. Even with something to obsess over, obsession alone won't save you on the days you're already running on empty. That's step 4. Here's a pattern almost everybody misses. The urge doesn't spike randomly. It spikes on the days you already feel like garbage. Bad sleep, a rough conversation, a mood that's already in the basement. And suddenly, the pull toward the habit feels 10 times stronger than usual. That's not a coincidence, and it's not weak willpower either. When you're already stressed, your body is running high on cortisol, And a stressed brain goes looking for the fastest possible relief it can find. It's not choosing the healthy option in that moment. It's choosing the option that works in the next 30 seconds. That's just how a stressed nervous system operates. Think about the last time you actually caved. Was it a good day? Or was it the day your boss ripped into you, or you didn't sleep, or you had a fight with someone you love? That's not a coincidence. That's the pattern. Which means the real fix isn't just managing the addiction. The real fix is managing the baseline mood that keeps sending you back to it. Sleep, actual conversations with actual people, moving your body, being grateful for something small and specific instead of vague. None of that sounds exciting, but a stable baseline is the difference between an urge you can shrug off and an urge that flattens you. You aren't craving the phone. Your nervous system is on fire, and your brain is screaming for an anesthetic. Fix the cortisol, and the craving magically shrinks into something you can actually ignore. Here's the uncomfortable part, though. You can do everything right, the replacement habit, the obsession, the baseline work, and still slip. And what you do in the 10 minutes right after that slip matters more than almost anything else in this whole video.
Quick detour before the last step. A real question. Why does the label stick so hard? Why does one guy see himself as a gamer with a problem for 10 years instead of just someone who plays less now? Because of how identity actually gets built. Psychologist Daryl Bem's self-perception theory says people figure out who they are largely by watching their own behavior, the same way an outside observer would, since we don't have direct access to our own beliefs and self-concept. Translation, you don't need to feel like a different person before you change. The behavior comes first. The identity catches up after. And here's the number that actually puts this in perspective. Behavior researcher Wendy Wood at USC estimates that roughly 43% of what you do every single day is habitual, running on autopilot, no real decision-making involved. Almost half your life is just default settings, which says a lot about how much of your personality is really just repetition. People sometimes call this voting for the person you want to become. And whatever you call it, this is the actual psychology behind why it works. Every single time you choose the workout over the game, the book over the scroll, that's a vote. One data point telling your own brain what kind of person you actually are. No single vote flips the identity, but you don't need unanimous. You just need the majority to start swinging. That's the actual mechanism behind fake it till you become it. It's not fake at all. It's just math you haven't finished yet. And that's exactly the moment most people quit for good. The second one bad night makes them feel like they erased every vote they'd already cast. It's backwards. Here's why. So you slip. It happens. This is step 5. What you do in the next 10 minutes. Because this is where most people accidentally torch all their progress. The instinct is to go hard on yourself. Call yourself weak, pathetic, a failure. Figuring the shame will scare you straight. Dr. Kristen Neff, who spent her career researching this at the University of Texas, found the opposite happens. When you judge yourself harshly, you end up being both the attacker and the attacked at the same time. And that self-directed cruelty doesn't build discipline, it just adds pain on top of pain. And remember the scale from the start? More pain means your brain goes looking for relief even harder. Shame doesn't stop the cycle, it fuels it. There's actually a difference between shame and guilt here. Guilt is judging the behavior, and it's the useful one, the one that makes you take responsibility and actually fix things. Shame judges you, the whole person, and that's the version that's been linked to addiction, not recovery from it. So the move isn't let yourself off the hook, it's judge the action, not your worth. You had a rough night. That's data, not a verdict. Acknowledge the stretch you stayed clean, or off the app, or whatever your version is.
then reset the counter and go again. That's not soft. That's just how the votes keep adding up instead of getting erased. Because here's the truth this whole video's been building to. Remember that scale from the very beginning? It's still tipping every single day, whether you're paying attention or not. The difference now is you've got all 5 steps. Diagnose it, replace it, obsess over something better, fix your baseline, and don't let one slip erase your votes. None of that was ever about willpower. It was about information you just didn't have. You have it now. So the next urge that hits, you already know exactly what to do with it. Like this if it hit different, subscribe if you want more of this, and go cast your next vote.